Hello, welcome to my Muck speedrunning guide for the full game random seed category. This will be an update to this guide from about a year ago. Most of the info in that guide is still up to date, so I'd recommend go checking it out. I felt the need to make another guide because there's been a bunch of new discoveries and new strategies. This guide will be split into two parts. The first part will be about all the mechanics that you need to know, and then the second part will be about strategy and how to tie those mechanics into an actual run. And of course there's going to be timestamps and all that good stuff if you just want to hop around to the new stuff. But anyway, enjoy, bye.
Housekeeping?
The housekeeping is just the speedrunning rules and some settings I recommend. First of all, those speedrunning rules. Unfortunately, you have to follow them unless you want your run to be invalid. Also, no mods whatsoever. Don't even look at the Thunderstore launcher. There are a few add-ons that are really helpful that I'll explain later. Alright, finally getting into the game. Pop over to settings first, turn off grass and tutorial, move on over to graphics. None of the graphics really matter, only anti-aliasing, so you can see totems or villages more clearly far away. I'd recommend turning bloom off. Everything else is fine though, it's up to personal preference. Alright, let's get on to the fun stuff. There are three essential techs that are used in every single run. That is the quick switch, the b-hop, and the table launch. Alright, now let's start with the quick switch, one of the easiest techs to learn. Now, whenever you swing, there's an animation that has to play, and you can cancel this animation by going to another part of the hotbar and then going right back. Looks something like this. Pretty easy. Alright. If the item you have already has a high enough attack speed, or you have enough power-ups that give you a bunch of attack speed, then you don't have to quick switch. For example, you don't have to quick switch a sword because it already has a fast enough attack speed. Alright, let's learn how to b-hop. Once you get the hang of it, b-hopping is really easy. All you really have to do is hold two movement keys and hold spacebar. But it mostly relies on the momentum you have gained. All the ways of gaining momentum are by just sprinting into a b-hop, the table launch, or any of the boosts from Gronk or the Chief Spear. I'll explain how the boosts from Gronk and the Chief work when I go over their attacks. Sprinting into a b-hop is the easiest way to gain momentum. Check this out. I'm going to sprint into holding W and A and the spacebar. All I did was sprint. And I'm getting some good speed. When you sprint into your jump, you have to let go of sprint after making the initial jump, because holding sprint while b-hopping drains your stamina bar mid-air. Something I recommend with b-hopping is just practicing it. It's really hard to master it, so just putting a lot of time into it really helps. Like just load into a random game, say, oh I want to go over to that tree, and just go. Just practice switching sides and having control over where you want to go with the b-hop. Something you might notice is I like to flick whenever I'm b-hopping. It's just a personal preference and I'm pretty sure it does make you faster. Just do whatever you feel is the best for your b-hopping. The third and my personal favorite tech is the workbench launch. This is what you're going to be using to cover large distances during your run. It works by shoving your character into another object and then using the bugginess. Oh wow, that's kind of funny though. Boop, boop, boop. This never happened before, this is hilarious. Anyway, if I walk out of this, you see the snap I did to the front of the workbench? That's what we're using to gain momentum. The reason we're not using walls or any other building is that walls take time to build. So here, if I go into settings, I press this back button, the game is paused right now. If I press tab twice to open my inventory and then close it, the game is still paused, but I'm able to move around and place things. This shows you that if I place this wall right here, it spawns in as that, and it will grow out from there. If I do the same thing with the workbench, it places instantly. So you can use that snapping momentum the game does to push you out of an object, because b-hopping fast is just reliant on the momentum you've gained. To do this, you're going to want to look down, push yourself up into either a workbench. It also works on chests and rock, but I'll explain that later. So just for now, use a workbench You want to place the workbench to where you want to go. Let's say I want to go straight this way. I'm going to use 2 workbenches for this. I'm going to place one right here. I'm going to place one right here. I'm going to face the workbench to where I want to go. I'm going to also face where I want to go. Hold D, in this case, into the workbench. And then I'm going to place the workbench, then hold spacebar. And it looks something like this. Here, let's try that again. Let's get over to that boat. I'm going to first find out which rotation of my crafting table will get me sort of where I want to go. This won't work because I'll go that way. So let's try this way. It's not directly onto the boat, but it's close enough. So I'm going to place a crafting table so that I can place one to the side. You want to place it to the side like this, because going parallel doesn't work. And you want this little gap right here. Anyway, I want to get over to that boat. So I'm going to place a crafting table like this. I'm going to hold D into it, like this, and face where I want to go. Look straight down, hold D into the crafting table. And then I'm going to place the workbench, and then hold jump. Looks something like this. And you can do this off anything else. Anything that isn't an entity like yourself. Because with entities, it'll just move out the way, so you can't use cows for your table launch. But this chest is perfect. This won't work, because I want to go this way, and there is no gap right there. So you want that little gap facing which way you want to go. The only real way I can place it is this way. This is too extreme of an angle, and you won't get the boost you want from it. So I want to go this way. I'm going to look straight down, looking sort of the way I want to go, like anywhere in this vicinity. I'm going to hold A and W this time, so that I push myself up against the chest. And I'm going to place the workbench and then hold space. I got a pretty good boost off of that. To practice this, I'd first practice the timing of placing the workbench and then jumping. So just practice that a bit. And then I'd practice the setup before actually doing it. So let's say I want to go off this coal. Going off coal, rocks, and other sort of round objects are a lot trickier, because you kind of gotta treat this thing like a sphere, and because you want this gap to be sort of at a 45-degree angle or less, you gotta kind of go past the sphere a little bit. So like, it won't work right here, right? Because I'm on the back side of the sphere. But it will work right here, because there's a gap right there. So just practice walking into it and jumping and not placing it yet. You want to jump once you hit it, so you can get that boost off of it. Some of the more notable things that I like using are coal, rocks, any of the ores, because like I said, they're a sphere, so you can really use any part of the rock to boost off of. You can also use trees, but the model of the tree is not the same as the hitbox of the tree, if that makes sense. You would think this would be the flat part of the hitbox, but it's actually the pointy bit. And the pointy bit of the oak tree is the flat part of the hitbox. It's not a perfect 90 degrees, I don't think. That's for oak trees and every other tree except for fir trees. The model of the fir tree is the same as this hitbox. See, this is the flat part. This is the flat part, and this is the pointy bit. While I go over to here, this would be the flat part. This would be the pointy bit. And then that's the same with the other bigger trees. The bigger trees are better to boost off of because they got that bigger hitbox, obviously. This tech I had to practice the most compared to b-hopping or quick switching, because you can use everything for this, and chests don't spawn the same. You can get different boosts off the same thing as well, so you really just gotta go into a world and practice off every single object. For this, I would recommend downloading the Give Items in Thunderstar Launcher, as well as God Powers. This means you can give yourself infinite stamina as well as a bunch of workbenches, so you can do what I do a lot, and I just load into a random world and start workbench boosting off of everything with infinite stamina, so I don't have to worry about that. Alright, so let me test your knowledge of what you know. I want to go that way. Is this the best workbench placement? Or is this the best workbench placement? This or this? It will be this way because this won't send you forward because there's no gap right here. It will actually send you backwards because of the gap right here. See, it'll send you this way. So yeah, if I want to go this way, this is the best way to place the workbench using that chest. Let's say I want to go this way, but let's just say in theory, this chest isn't giving me the best boost off of. Well, I can just run over to this chest and be like, oh, this one's better. You know, you don't have to boost off one thing, you can use different things to boost off of. Anyway, that's a super long explanation. I hope you understand all that. And yeah, those are the 3 main techs you're going to be using during your speedruns. Alright, now that you know some speedrunning techs, let's make some progress into actually learning how to complete the game. This all starts with the villages. There are 3 villages that spawn around the map, and the villages house the villagers. Now these are the lifeblood of the run. Without these guys, you won't be able to get the materials you need to complete the boat. Speaking of the materials you need to complete the boat, here are all the materials you are going to need. In order to get all those materials, you first gotta know that this right here is a village. It's distinct by its campfires, its log piles, its logs on their side, these barrels, these canopy things, these rock piles. Everything in here isn't anywhere else in the game. So if you see any of this, it's a village. Something funny about the villages is that they can spawn halfway in the water, which first allows the villagers to get a little dip in, but also if the chief's chest decides to spawn in the part that's in the water, it will just despawn. So if you're wondering where your chief's chest is, check if your village is near water. Alright, why am I making such a big deal about a chief's chest? Well, because in short, it is really good. It has a chance of spawning some of the best items in the game, the ancient bow or the chief spear. It can also give you gold for your boat or for coins. If you didn't know, if you get gold bars, you can craft them into gold coins through an anvil. I did this in my PB run, and it helped me get an adamantite sword to start the run off. It also can drop some other stuff, not really important, but it is overall a good chest to break at the start of the run. You can't just go up to it and open it because you'll piss off everyone at the village. The best way to break the chief's chest is from behind it, the top left or even the top right, standing at a good distance from it. Like I'd say arm's length, if that makes any sense. But not super close, not out of range if you're hitting it. Looking up at the top left of the chest and swinging your axe. This has a 100% success rate. You'll break it every single time. Like look, I got some gold bars, some food. Another obscure mechanic that a lot of people don't know about the chief's chest is that every single chief's chest at all 3 of the villages, if the chief's chest spawns at the village, all their loot tables are the same. That doesn't mean you'll get the same amount of items, but for this chief's chest, just has coins in it, right? I go over to this one, it's just gonna have coins in it. See? Oh, I got the exact same amount of items, but yeah. Another thing about the chief's chest, this isn't as extreme of an example, but it can spawn like on the vertical parts of hills. In that case, I wouldn't recommend going for it. I just open it if you need to, but there are ways to break it. Like let's say it spawns right here. I can't break it because I just slide down that mountain. What you'll have to do is you'll have to slide onto the chief's chest and sort of look up and swing your axe. You see I'm hitting the chief's chest? You can hear it. You can't see it, but that's because your swinging hitbox hits behind you. And it's not glitched when it's swinging behind you, like I'm right up on it, you know? And if that doesn't work, then it's kind of GG's at that point. You just gotta figure out the finickiness of this thing and then work around that, but yeah, that's about it. Alright, on to the villagers. Now, there are 6 types of villagers, which all will sell you different types of items needed for the run. But first, you gotta know who doesn't sell, which are these guys. These are the runners. They'll just run around the village randomly. If you're attacking at all in the village, you have a chance of hitting one of them and pissing everyone off. So Be careful when you're breaking barrels, breaking the chief's chest. I wouldn't recommend fighting any bosses in a village because that happens way too often. They got 30-pound weights on their feet so you can hear them from a mile away. But just be careful when you're swinging anything around the village. Alright, something to keep in mind about that materials chart is that those are the minimum requirements needed to complete the boat, meaning those aren't all the materials you'll need in a single run. For example, you're going to need way more wood to build your workbenches and to build your rope and stuff like that. Anyway, moving back to the villagers and looking at this section right here, these are all the wood types you're going to need. They can be sold from this guy or dropped / found normally in the world. With this guy, I got lucky and got every single one of the wood types I need. Most of the time, and this goes with every single other villager, that won't happen, and you'll have to bounce around different villages or bounce around different villagers in the same village trying to piece together all the materials you need. Also, this guy sells coal. One coal smelts 2 items compared to wood, which only smelts 1 item, and it also smelts faster, which is the more important bit for the speedrun. Another thing to keep in mind that also applies to every single other villager are what they sell. Now the wood villagers, their sells aren't that important to a run. I'll go over who to sell what to in the second section. Alright, and here's your miner dude. This dude will sell you all of these items you need to complete the boat. Something to take into note is the items you see right there are just the smelted versions of obomnium ore, or adamantite ore, or gold ore, or iron ore, right? Something important these guys also sell is that adamantite sword. This will be your main weapon for most of the runs. You can easily get 75 gold in a village, which I'll explain in the second section. Here are the archer villagers. They're not important at all. They can get you flint and flax and a crutch. If you have an ancient bow run going, you can buy any of their elemental arrows. If you're just loaded that run, you can also straight up buy an ancient bow from them, but you usually won't be interacting with these guys at all on a run. Moving on to the next villager, these are your food dudes or chefs. Their main trades are wheat, purple soup, and weird soup. The purple soup and the weird soup, or mixed soup, is where you're gonna get your stamina regen from. The purple soup is better than the weird soup because it's 5 coins cheaper than the weird soup, which is 15 coins. But if there's no purple soup in your first village, then weird soup's always a great option because it also restores your health. Keep in mind that he also sells wheat and wood. So yeah, this dude's pretty important. Alright, now these are the wild cards. Their trading pool is all the other villagers' trading pools combined together, randomized. So they can be really good or really, really bad. This guy, he's alright. He has 3 of the wood types. An elemental arrow in there. He also sells some pretty good stuff. He sells wheat and iron ore. Both good things to sell at the start of the run for easy money. All the villagers that can trade are standing still, so that's one way you can tell them apart from the dudes that don't trade. Alright, that's everything you need from the village. Let's hop on over to the boat. Alright, this is the boat. It's got a couple of quirks to it. I got lucky with this boat, and I could just walk right up to it. It'll always face north. That's just a random fact. It's not really useful. Alright, let's say the boat, we just couldn't walk up right to it, and we had to build a ladder. If you don't have enough wood to build the ladder, what you can do is just like bee hopping. You can press 2 keys into the boat. 2 keys in the boat, whether that be A, W, W, and D. And just spam spacebar. And you should be able to just climb the side of the boat like a mountain goat. And I guess this is a good time to explain another quirk about this game, which is the maps. Now, at the start of the run, every single chest will spawn with a boat map in it. So if you already don't know where the boat is, that map will tell you. On the boat there is the gem map. Shift clicking it in doesn't reveal anything. None of the gems show up here. You have to either drag it into your inventory, or while it is in your inventory, move it, and then everything will show. Same thing with the boat map. You shift click the boat map in, the boat location doesn't show up, but if you drag it in from the chest, or move it while it's in your inventory, it will show up. Once getting that gem map, it'll reveal all the gems. These gem spawns are poop from a butt. If I saw this in a run, it might just be a reset for me. If they're all clumped together like this is a good run. Alright, now I guess it's time to talk about bosses. Alright, there are 4 types of bosses in the game. They're technically mini bosses because Bob is the boss, but it doesn't matter. Mini bosses or bosses are fine. There's the Guardian, the Chief, Gronk, and then the Chunk. This is a Guardian. The Guardians have 3 attacks. First is the Slam. A pretty noticeable attack. They'll jump up and hit the ground, dealing damage around them, whilst also spawning a spike out of the ground, which will spawn at where you would be if you kept moving. The Laser. The laser does more damage the further you are away, so standing close and having any sort of damage reduction will negate all of the damage done by the laser for the first day or 2. Throwing items at the laser will block the laser, which is a pretty funny way of negating a very scary looking attack. And now the hardest attack to dodge in my opinion is the Slap. It can catch you super off guard, it's unpredictable, but doing circles around the Guardian will cause him to sometimes miss you. The Guardians will give you a power up and their gem. They also have a pretty rare chance of dropping Obamium. I luckily got that on my PB run. And they can also drop Ruby. The wiki says they can drop 5 to 10, but I've seen more even without the piggy bank power up. If they drop 11 Ruby, you're set for the run on Ruby and you don't have to buy anymore. They can also drop something called the Black Shard, which is completely useless, throw it away. Alright, listen up. This is the Chief. In my opinion, this is the hardest boss out of the 4 of them. All of his attacks are pretty hard to dodge, and if you're not full HP, you might die to this man. Alright, like with the Chunk, I'm going to explain all his attacks as I go here, so let's go. Alright, that's a Slam. Like with the Chunk and the Guardians, if you're just doing circles around him, you won't really get hit by that. You got a little bit more time to see what he's doing compared to the other 2 bosses. That's his jump. The area of effect that he'll deal when landing is shown, pretty easy to dodge. Unless you're right next to him, then it's kind of hard to get out of the way of. So that, see that is a little bit hard to get to. That's his throw. That is also impossible to run away from if you're not already predicting it. Like if you're up close to him, dealing damage, and he does his throw, you have to go pretty far out of the way and then jump to the side, or you can just tank it. That Chief Spear throw is also, in my opinion, the best boost in the game. You can't be right next to him when you do it. You have to be at a distance in order to get the boost, or it'll glitch out. Here, I'll try and showcase it again here. Yeah, it's just kind of insane. It may be even better than some of the best table launches, but pretty good attack to gain a lot of momentum from. Alright, his third attack, he made a Sawdoo's the spin. I'll try and get him to do it here. This one's the easiest out of the 4. You just jump while he's doing it. You only take 1 tick of damage. It's bugged like that. This guy I would recommend practicing the most out of all of them. He's unpredictable. His slam has a pretty high area of effect and does a lot of damage. He's not the best for farming, but he'll also drop both the oak woods. He also has a chance of dropping his spear or the spearhead. It is a 2.5% chance to drop the spear and a 10% chance for the spearhead. So you're not really going to get it that much. Alright, the next boss you might come across is Gronk. Gronk AI? Gronk. This is one of the best bosses to kill because he has easy boost potential and his slashing attack is great for farming. From easiest to hardest attacks, his easiest attack is his throwing attack where he throws his big old swords at you. That attack is a little glitched because it will phase through anything that's in front of it, even you. His next attack is the slashing attack. It's pretty easy to dodge. You just get him to slash at you and you run behind him. It can reach behind him, so be careful about getting too close. Like I said, this attack has great farming potential. If you need some gold in your run, you can run up to a gold node and have him slash it. He also will 99% of the time go for this attack first whenever you spawn him. So keep that in mind. His third attack is his slam. This one is super televised. He'll charge back his swords and then hit the ground, sending out these energy swords across the floor. This is a little bit harder to defend against, you do have to run back and then jump over them. You can also use this and the throwing attack to get some boost. And by some boost, I mean quite a lot of boost. His drops are the same as the Chief, he just has his weapon drop instead of the Chief Spear. Although you may have noticed that 10% chance for that Ancient Bone. That is the other way of obtaining the Ancient Bow. You just craft it with one rope in a fletching table. It's also a 1% chance to get an Ancient Bone from a Goblin, but you know, that rarely happens, it's a 1% chance. Alright, this is Big Chunk. He also has 3 attacks. In my opinion, this is one of the easiest of the bosses to kill. This is one of the easiest bosses because his attacks are really easy to dodge if you just stand under him and deal damage from there. Alright, let's go through his attacks. This attack is his most common, it's his jump. He'll jump up, slam the floor, and spawn 3 rocks out in a cone out in front of him. This is the only attack you can't dodge while hitting him from under because he's jumping on you. He also will do damage from slamming the ground and from the rocks, so you gotta keep that in mind. That's his slam attack. He'll slam the floor and spawn a rock that'll home to you for a couple seconds. See, the rock can hit you, but if you're moving around, you know, you won't get hit by it. It doesn't do that much damage either. Alright, this is his sweeping attack. He'll sweep out in front of him, and like I said, if you're just under him, you won't get hit by it. The strategy with him, just stand under him, look up, and swing your sword. Your goal with that is to hit all of these hitboxes. Each one of these limbs counts as a hitbox. So when I swing, you see how I'm hitting all 4 of these. If I jump while doing it, I can hit the 5th as well. You can see that. I guess this is a good time to talk about how the damage scaling works for hitting multiple things at once. Alright, so let's say I hit 2 of his limbs. It'll do full damage on one of them, and then half damage on the other one. I hit 4 of his limbs. Full damage, half damage, half damage. It'll just go half, 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 until it gets to 0. And that's how it works on groups of enemies as well. That's how it works on materials. So if you're breaking 2 trees at once, one tree will take full damage, the other tree will take half damage. Alright, to dodge his attacks, those 2 where he slams out in front of them or sweeps out in front of them, don't have to dodge them. Right, because they're not going to hit you if you're under him. But when he jumps on you, that will do a lot of damage. Here, watch. See? That's quite a bit of damage. You can't really dodge the damage from him hitting the floor, but what you can do is you can dodge the damage from the rocks that spawn right after. So here, watch this. He goes to jump. I'm going to jump into him and spam spacebar so that I'm jumping up in his nuts while the 3 rocks spawn. So I don't take damage from the rocks, but I take damage from him jumping. What you can also do is have him jump on a chest, a tree, anything else, if you're not comfortable with jumping into him. Or you can jump on a workbench and then the rocks will just go away. They won't chase you. And that's all for Chunk. I would recommend killing 1 Chunk a round because he drops rock and sometimes iron. Rock is good because it's used to craft the furnaces you'll need to smelt your ores at the end of the run. And iron is good just so you don't have to buy extra iron. He drops quite a bit of iron as well, so you can usually get enough iron from killing 1 or even 2 chunks. He also drops chunkium ore. It's useless. Alright, once you got all your gems and all the flax and meat that you need to complete the boat, you'll come back to the village. You will buy, smelt, and craft all the stuff you need, and then you'll go over to the boat. There really aren't any mechanics that goes into crafting the boat, it's just building everything up. If you have a damaged part spawn here, you can push yourself up into this corner and repair it from there. Also just remember there might be 2 damages that spawn on the back here. If you can't reach those damaged parts on the ground, you'll have to fall off the boat and rebuild one at a time. In order to circumvent this, what you can do is you can jump. When you land, your camera will move down slightly, and that will allow you to get low enough to rebuild those damaged parts on the back. And something I'd recommend is just going from front to back. So repairing everything here, repairing that. If you leave this for the final thing you repair, once you repair it, it'll take a couple seconds for the actual leave muck to pop up. So build this first before you go and finish everything else you're building. Also, it takes a while for the water to rise and Bob to spawn, and you can swim in the water. Like, the boat doesn't actually go anywhere, it just floats up. So you can swim in the water, grab some chests if you have extra money. If you're close to a village, you can even complete some trade. So like, if you might need some extra food or might need some arrows, you can swim over to a village and do some trading. That's about it for building the boat. It's pretty simple. Alright, now let's talk about Bob. Bob has two phases. His first phase, he'll fly around the boat, randomly moving around, shooting fireballs at you. This phase, just dodge his fireballs. They work the same as the Guardian Slam, where the spike that comes out of the ground will be where you would be if you kept running that way. They work the same as that. They predict where you're going to be running and then they fire there. That's all with this phase. You'll know when he goes into his second phase because he'll immediately switch to flying in a designated area in the air so that he can swoop down onto the boat and perch it. When he comes down, you can get a hit on him and he'll do 2 slams and yell at you, which isn't that nice, but you know, it's Bob. He's learning his manners, don't worry. I call this his attacking phase. He has 4 attacks. His slam attack. This attack you can't really dodge unless you're playing super passively, which you don't want to be playing passively during the Bob fight. So you have to tank this HP. So having food to heal, or a better option, having the Crimson Dagger to heal health, is essentially required for this boss fight. His second attack is his sweeping attack. This, you literally just jump over him, let him pass under you, and then you'll go back to fighting. His third attack is his fire breath. This one you also kind of have to tank, but moving around while he does it, same thing with the chief when he does his spinning attack. If you're jumping or moving during this attack, won't take as much damage as you would be if you just stood still. His fourth attack is his fireball attack. He'll summon some fireballs in the air. Just be wary of where the fireballs are landing. Bob himself doesn't do anything, so they spawn randomly around you. To speedrun this boss fight, you want to kill him in 2 perches. To do this, you need to know when he'll fly away and when to do damage. Firstly, Bob will fly away if he does 10 attacks, or you deal 1/3 of his total HP while he is perched. The strategy here is to deal just below 1/3 of his total HP, then when he does his longest attack, the fireball attack, you'll deal as much damage as possible. This is because Bob cannot fly away when he's in the middle of an attack. Here, let me explain this in a hypothetical. Let's say Bob has 3000 HP. When he perches, your goal is to deal 999 damage and then wait for his fireball attack. The moment you see his fireball attack, you'll want to start swinging and hopefully bring him down to half HP or below. Alright, now you just repeat the process again. Try and get him down to 501 HP and then start swinging once you see his fireball attack. And that's how you do this Bob fight. Bob does not have 3000 HP. He'll have more HP the more nights go by. So here's a chart of the first 5 nights and 1/3 of his total HP per day. Before Bob even perches, you'll have to do the math on what his next HP threshold is and get him just above that. So if you deal damage with your ancient bow before he even perches, you'll have to do the math as he flies in on what that threshold is. In my PB run for his second perch, I knew Bob's threshold for leaving the boat was about 400 HP, so to be safe I got him down to 493 and then waited for his fireball attack to finish him off.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Alright, welcome to the second part of the guide. Here I'll be talking about all the power-ups and how to utilize them in a speedrun. I'll also be talking about what a standard run will look like with the help of my PB run. So I feel like the best way to explain how the power-ups works is through a tier list. I'll go from top to bottom and explain what they do and how they can be used in a speedrun. So let's start with the best power-up in the game. The bulldozer, baby! You get a round of applause for the bulldozer. Yeah, it's ass. Bulldozer will push enemies away from you. I don't know why you want the enemy to go away from you in a speedrun when you want to kill them fast. It's more annoying than it is good, and you should not be picking this up. If it drops from a boss, you'll unfortunately have to pick it up, because you have to pick up everything else the boss dropped. Before moving on to the rest of the tier list, these power-ups aren't from best to worst in each of their tiers, they're just in that tier. Something else is that the more of one power-up you gain, the less and less each stack has an effect. Here with the bulldozer, with one bulldozer, it's a 13.9% chance to knock back. But with two bulldozers, it's a 25.9, which is a 12% increase instead of a 13.9% increase. And then from 2 to 3, it's I think it's about 10.3% increase in chance to knock back instead of the 13.9 you would get. What do you want? What? You're so loud. So when you see me throw up a random number next to the power-up, it's for the first stack of the power-up, and every other stack is going to have a little bit less of an effect. Moving up to D tier. This is Dracula. It will give you 1 HP for every 1 enemy killed. That's not good. You don't need extra HP in a run. Same thing with the other two power-ups next to Dracula, the red pill and the blue pill. The red pill will give you 10 max HP. The blue pill will give you 10 HP of shield. Like I said, don't need extra HP in a run, so not that good. Broccoli will regen your HP because you'll constantly be regenerating stamina and eating purple soup, which will also give you some health with it, so you don't need health regen. The Spoobing will slow down your hunger drain, completely useless. Like with the bulldozer, you don't even have to pick this one up. There's no debuff to picking it up, but you'll be constantly eating purple soup, which will be giving you hunger back, so you don't need your hunger to drain slower. The checkered shirt, this is the worst legendary item. It'll increase the damage you do to materials or barrels or just things in the world, not enemies. There's no really use to that besides the start of the run, which you won't be getting many power-ups from. So if you get this at the start of the run, it's really good, but I don't think I've ever gotten it at the start of my run. Alright, moving on to B tier. First, we got the Nuts Hammer. The Nuts Hammer has a chance to spawn a lightning strike on a hit, dealing a little bit of extra damage in an area attack. It's not the greatest. I'd say it's one of the worst of the damage-dealing legendaries, but it's not terrible to have. Alright, the Peanut Butter will basically buff your stamina. It can save you some purple soups, but it's not the best. It starts getting good if you have 3 or 4 stacks of it, but that'll rarely happen. The jetpack will increase your jump height. With the new table launch, this has actually become pretty good. Because you'll jump higher, that means over a long stretch of map, you'll have to jump less, meaning you'll use less stamina if you have the jetpack. So it's not a terrible power-up. It sort of debuffs your regular B-hop because you'll spend more time in the air instead of more time B-hopping and gaining speed. But if you're confident with your table launch, this is a really good power-up to pick up. Next is the Horseshoe. It'll increase your critical strike chance, which will allow you to do more damage just over time. That's about it. Pretty good. The Milk will increase your damage reduction. This power-up has an argument to be moved up into A tier, because if you just have one of these at the start of a run, it'll completely negate the Guardian's laser attack. But it's debuffed because if you have Adrenaline, you would want to take damage from the laser in order to proc Adrenaline. So that's why it's not an A tier. Alright, now the Jenkins Frog. This will allow you to double jump. Something that is quirky about this one. You know how when your stamina bar gets low enough, whenever you jump, you won't gain any more momentum from it? If you double jump once you reach that threshold, you'll actually still gain the momentum. Jenkins Frog also pairs well with the Wings of Glory. The Wings of Glory works like the Minecraft crit, where as you're falling, you'll deal more damage. So what you can do with the Jenkins Frog and the Wings of Glory combo is you'll deal 1 falling crit, and then you'll jump, so you can deal another falling crit in quick succession. Alright, moving on to A tier. The first power-up we got is the Dumbbell. It'll just increase the amount of damage you do. Don't know what else to say about that, it's just good. The Sniper Scope has a pretty small chance of dealing a huge chunk of damage. This will really only proc once or twice in a run if you have one of them, but because it just does so much damage, that proc can save you 10 seconds. Alright, the Juice will increase your attack speed for a short amount of time after you deal a crit, so that means it combos well with the Horseshoe. Now the Orange Juice, this will simply increase your base attack speed. Alright, and the Berserker, this pairs well with the Adrenaline because the lower health you are, the more damage you'll deal. So with Adrenaline, you want to get low health so you can proc Adrenaline. And then if you have a Berserker on you, you'll just deal more damage as you are lower HP. Now the Robin Hood Hat, this could either be A tier or D tier. It all depends if you get an Ancient Bow run. If you get an Ancient Bow run, this will just boost all the stats of the Ancient Bow. But if you don't get an Ancient Bow run, this is completely useless. I won't be talking about an ancient bow run that much because of how hard it is to do. The stars need to align. Like, you need to get an ancient bow in the first place, then you need good money to buy sufficient amount of elemental arrows, which are 30 coins for only 5 arrows. And remember, the ancient bow shoots out 3 arrows at a time. All that needs to happen while also buying everything needed to rebuild the boat. So it is really rare to get an ancient bow run, but it's genuinely the meta. It is so good because you don't have to wait for Bob to fly down. You can deal damage to him in the air. Now moving on to the good stuff. The S tier, baby. The piggy bank. This will increase the amount of items you get from killing enemies. So this means it'll increase the amount of coins you get from all your mini bosses. It'll increase the amount of meat you get from cows. It just increases the amount of items, not the chance to get an item. The Wings of Glory, like I said with the Jenkins frog, it'll deal damage as you're falling. Another consistent way to always deal falling damage is to push yourself up against a boss and sort of use the boss's hitbox to jump off of. Another way to deal loads of damage is a Wings of Glory plus Enforcer combo. The Enforcer works by dealing more damage the faster you are. So if you're falling, you're moving. And while you're moving, your Enforcer will proc, as well as your Wings of Glory, dealing loads of damage. So the Adrenaline will proc if you're below 30% HP, and the attack speed bonus you get from this is actually crazy. You'll be chunking down any of the mini boss's health in just seconds with this, especially with a Chief Spear. Alright, now moving on to the Crimson Dagger. This is just lifesteal. As I said at the end of the first section, you want to have either food or a Crimson Dagger for the Bob fight because you'll just be taking so much damage. In my PB run, I almost died because I didn't have this power up. I got down to 2 HP at the end there. Alright, the simplest power up to explain why it is good for a speedrun. The sneakers make you go faster. Done deal right there. Sweet, now you know most of the mechanics and what the power-ups do. Let's cover how to actually beat the game. I've broken up how a typical run will look like in 6 segments, and I'll explain the strategy for each of them. So we got looting the first village, getting gem map, routing to the gems, returning to the first village, building the boat, and then killing Bob. Alright, looting the first village. Before even explaining how to loot the first village, you need to know that the frame you're able to see something is when the run starts. So no dilly-dallying. You want to spawn in and do a sweep of your surroundings and hopefully spot a village or two. If not, maybe walk around, but it's most likely just a reset. You'll want to loot the village in a circle so you're not bouncing around and wasting time. It should take you about 2 to 3 minutes, and you want to come out with a weapon and some stamina regen. There really are only 2 weapons you can get from this first village, and that is the Adamantite Sword and the Chief Spear. You're going to be getting the Adamantite Sword most of the time because the Chief Spear is the 3% chance from the Chief's chest. So I would just recommend going into it knowing you need 75 coins to buy the Adamantite Sword from the minor villager. There are plenty of ways of getting coins. Just looting the village's chests in the huts or in the canopies can get you a bunch of coins. Breaking the barrels is also a good way to do it. There are always 2 barrels that spawn under the canopies, so breaking those is pretty good. The barrels also give you some pretty good materials as well. The wood is good for workbenches. The rock and food is just good overall to have. But most importantly, that wheat that you get from breaking those barrels, you can sell that to the food villagers for pretty good, which can put you over the edge in order to get to 75 coins to buy the Adamantite Sword. Same with the iron ore. You get iron ore from the barrels as well, and you can sell it to the ore dudes for 10 coins per 5 iron. Stamina regen, like I said, you can get bread and other food from just looting the village, but what you'll want is purple soup from the food villagers. That means you're going to need about 125 coins so that you can get at least 25 purple soup, because with the new workbench launch, you don't need as much stamina regen because you're going to be moving pretty quickly across the map. And as you're circling the village, remember to check the villagers' trades. It's extremely important to do this because you want to know what your first village doesn't have, so when you're pathing to the gems later in the run, you can stop by another village and see if they have what you were missing from your first village. Hopefully the boat is nearby. You don't really want it to be super far away because that's more time running instead of doing something, you know what I mean? Anyway, it's pretty easy to spot the boat's mast from far away. So if you see the boat on the other side of the map, then just reset. It's not really worth it. Speaking of far away, you might notice me looking down all the time during my runs, and that is because you can see farther by looking down. For example, looking at this hut over here, if I look down, there's an entire hill behind it. It sort of pushes the fog out of the way and gives you just a little bit more vision. Anyway, remember you can always scale the side of the boat, and that you have to drag the boat map into your inventory or move it while it's inside your inventory in order to see the gem spawns. And if the gem spawns are bad, then it's a reset. You can do this part first if you spawn near the boat. Like, let's say on my PB run, I spawned near the boat instead of the village. What I would do is I would hop on over to the boat first, grab the gem map, and then start looting the village. That's because I can plan out my run better if I know where the gems are. So these two are interchangeable. Just depends on where you spawn. The strategy for routing to the gems is the same as looting the village. You'll want to do it in a circle and loot as you go. While you're doing that circle, you want to look out for other materials needed to craft the boat. So that's the 13 flax and 10 meat. You'll need at least 1,000 coins depending on your boss drops and what you'll loot during the run. So you kind of want to gauge this. Like if you get 13 dark oak from a chief, then you'll only need to buy 15 more dark oak, saving you 150 coins. An example of this is in my PB run, I got obamium from the second guardian I killed. So that saved me 75 coins of purchasing obamium. It also saved me an extra 37 coins because I was able to sell 5 obamium. Another way of thinking it is you can just kill 2 extra mini bosses, 2 to 3 extra mini bosses. That's because you'll get most of your coins from the guardians. And if you get a piggy bank first, then you only need to kill 1 or 2 extra mini bosses because you'll get quite a bit of coins extra from that piggy bank power up. Also, if you didn't get any gold bars from your chief's chest, while you're routing, you'll look out for those gold nodes that spawn around the map. To break these, you'll need a higher tier than a wooden pickaxe, so that's either steel or gold. Or you can use Gronk's slashing attack to break the gold nodes. Like I said before, if your first village is missing something, here when you're routing to the different gems, you'll want to look out for another village. In order to get rope, you'll need wheat, which you can either find around the world, or the better strategy is to buy it off of the food guys. In order to craft that rope, you'll need 30 wheat and 30 wood. You'll turn that wood into bark, and then you'll just craft rope. You'll get an extra rope off of that, which you can use to craft that ancient bow, if you get that ancient bone from Gronk. Alright, now you've circled to all those 5 gems. You've looted as you went and got everything else you needed. Now, that means you're returning to your first village. Something you should also have while you're returning to the first village is an ancient core. This is also chance, like with most of the other things in this game. It's a 15% chance to drop an ancient core from a guardian and a 33% chance to drop it from a boss. So you'll get it most of the time, but I have runs that have just ended because of bad luck. So in this phase of the run, you're gonna buy, sell, craft, and smelt everything you need. So just make sure you have that materials list on a 48 by 72 inch poster in your room, right above your monitor, so that you can reference it to buy everything you needed for the boat. Anyway, you want to start with the ores. They take time to smelt, so you want to do them first. Iron is pretty expensive to buy from the ore villager, and you'll need quite a lot of it. That's why I always recommend killing at least 1 chunk while you are routing to the guardians. The chunk has a pretty good chance of giving you the iron you need. He also drops rock, and you're going to use that rock to craft furnaces. It's 15 rock per furnace, and you want to craft as many furnaces as ores you need to be smelted. So let's say I got gold bars from the chief's chest. Boom, that's covered. I only need 3 furnaces. Alright, just throw down all these guys. Remember, you can always buy coal from the tree villager, and you'll need at least 30. With 30, you're going to want to have 16 for the iron, and then you're going to want to split it up again Have at least 3 for the obomnium and the adamantite, and then just throw the rest in with the gold ore. While all of this is smelting, you'll go to the rest of the village and buy everything else you need, like all the wood types, the ruby if you need it. Anyway, now that you bought everything, your gold will probably be done by now. When that's done, you'll just split up your iron and your coal so that you can smelt the iron faster, because the iron takes the longest. Alright, now you'll craft up everything like your rope or your flax if you still need to do that, and that's basically all you're doing for this part. If you're tight on money, you can always break the rock piles and the wood piles around the village just so you don't have to buy them, because you get quite a bit of wood and rock from these piles. That's about it. This is a pretty chaotic part, and you can easily forget things you need. So just having that materials list, even on your phone on your desk, that's what I did when I was first starting this run. And also, an organized inventory is so important. You'll have about 4 or 5 slots to spare when you have all the materials in your inventory, so keeping organized is pretty freaking important. Alright, now quickly run over to that boat and build that thing. Remember to start from front to back, and some notable things you have to build are the stairs going up to the boat and the 2 damaged parts on the back. The reason I made this a separate segment, it didn't really have to be because you already know everything that is to building the boat from the first part of this guide, but I made this a second part because it's really easy to forget just one material needed to complete the boat. I've done it multiple times. So really come up with a strategy that makes it easy for you to remember what you need to build the boat and what you're missing. Also, at this point in the run, you're super beefy, and you can save killing cows for this part. Alright, now let's kill that sucker. I explained that in this part, so if you want a refresher, you can go back there. But what you want to look out in this Bob fight is how to do the most amount of damage. This is with adrenaline. Adrenaline is just so good, man. If you have adrenaline in the last boss fight and Crimson Dagger, you can pretty easily proc that adrenaline and save yourself from dying while you're at such low HP. In my PB run, I made a mistake by focusing on popping adrenaline and not attacking Bob in that small window I had when he did his fireball attack. Alright, now, you kill Bob, you're popping off, type slash seed. You can still type slash seed while the victory screen is up, so you don't have to really worry about it, but your run will not count if you do not type slash seed. Also, if you're wondering how I got that timer on the left, and if you're wondering how to reset runs super quickly, on speedrun.com, in the resources tab, there is an auto restart with easy selected for random seed and an in-game timer. Just download those, follow the directions. These are really the only quote-unquote mods that are allowed during the speedrun, but they're really helpful, so I would recommend them. Alright, welcome to the other stuff part of the guide. This is some stuff that I didn't know how to fit into the actual guide, but is still pretty important and that you should be using in your runs. Alright, the most important things are that while you are b-hopping, you are still able to interact in your inventory while using the movement keys. Just you can't move around, with your mouse because you're in your inventory. This is good for sorting on the move. You always want to be sorting while moving. And you also want to have a sorted inventory so you're not forgetting anything to build the boat. Alright, second is that you can craft using both of your M1s. So watch this. I'm going to left click and right click at the same time to buy this bowl, and I get 2. You can't do it at the same time because you'll just get 1. You kind of have to space them out. That'll save you a couple seconds. Alright, another thing is the underground clip. I sort of phased this out after learning how to do the table launch because you don't really need it anymore. It works by shoving yourself into a corner and placing stairs on top of you to sort of shove yourself into the ground and clip under. There are 2 ways to do it. The first way is just the 2 stairs. With the first stair, you want to get this step like right onto your head, like sort of like this. And you also want to be on flat ground for this. So get the first step into your head to sort of lock you in place. And then with the next stair, you can just look straight down and put it on you. And they get pushed underground. The water goes all the way under the island. I'm just gonna have God mode on for this. So you can just swim everywhere. It's pretty quick, but the setup takes a while and it uses a ton of stamina. The other way of clipping underground is a lot easier to set up. You just do this and you use a roof and you look straight down. This will push you and lock you in place, and then you use that other stair, look a little bit up and place it down. While you are underground, you can swim directly down and that will TP you to the middle of the map. You'll lose all your HP. I was on God mode so I didn't. But it is a good way of getting to the center of the map if you need to do that. Like if you're over here, you can TP to the center. I really don't see a use for it anymore, but it's just something good to know. Alright, another thing is if you have 2 weapons, if you sell, it will sell both of them at once for the money of only one. So that's for if you get an ancient bow in your chief's chest and you run over to another village to get the ancient bow in that chief's chest, you'll have 2 of them, right? In order to stop it from selling both of your ancient bows, if you want the money from one, you'll throw one on the ground, sell, and then pick the other one up. And another thing, you can use that whirlwind to trimp up certain terrain. Oh wait, this is the wrong game. My fault. Alright, lastly, there's these caves. Same with the villages. 3 of them spawn around the map, as well as these wooden carts. The caves, their loot tables, are actually pretty good if you don't look at the chance to get the items. And usually there will only be 1 chest in here. So it's very much a gamble if you want to loot these during a run. I wouldn't recommend it, but notably they can have meat and iron ore. They can also spawn in some pretty funny spots. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope you understood everything, but if not, just ask a question in the comments, or even in the Muck speedrunning Discord. I'll keep a tally of things I missed in the description, so check that for updates. Also thanks to Ten for inspiring me to make something like this. He's the GOAT, I recommend go checking him out. But hey, if you're feeling inspired, go give this run a try. The game is free. It doesn't hurt to just try speedrunning this. If you don't want to speedrun this and you still play Muck, you can also use bee hopping in your normal game. You can use a table boost in your normal game. It's really fun to mess around with. Anyway, you have a good one.